So I went in and did exactly that. I had a meeting with Gary Adelson, the producer. I told him this is what I would do, and I was waiting for him to say thank you very much. Next, and he went, "Good, that sounds great." And I was suddenly on board a space opera with no real experience, in terms of doing anything. I mean, this is my second movie, and quite a challenge, but as you can find out, the team that they put around me, and some of the people that I knew that came on board were an excellent force in making the thing work as well as it has. So that was that was perfect for those films. But I thought what was perfect for this film is an isolated kid. And where could that be? Where could we find an isolated situation where someone that wants to get out of there, and he really gets out of there in this case. So that was the inspiration. The lead guy's name was Skippy, I think,
And Jeff.
and Molly or something. Some names that were very cartoonish, and I went, this is exactly what we don't want to do with this. We want to ground it in a certain reality, because if you see the movie, the movie, it is still broad, it's fun, it's broad. But he added more cartoony in its original conception, so that really changed a lot of things as we went on.
Lance, you would have passed if you had been Skippy, would you? You would have, your agent I'm not playing Skippy, I'm not doing this movie.
I don't know.
Involved.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't say.
So tell us, obviously what's interesting is you're sort of an earthbound Luke Skywalker, a lot less whiny than Luke.
And you don't have power converters.
But it's such a great hero's journey because you're reluctant at first, but then you do the right thing. Spoiler alert. So can you tell us a little bit about how the project came to you and getting involved initially with Last Starfighter?
Well, I was basically an unknown actor. I'd done probably 2 years of television work and a few small parts of films, and I had done Halloween 2, but I didn't necessarily think that was any type of stepping stone or anything. I just was okay. Well, I did this movie and see how it goes. So it just came to me from my agent, and it was called Centauri's Recruit. I thought that was kind of a cool title. And I read it, and I just, to me, what I connected with was like, this. What if this really happened? Like what would a normal person do in this situation? And because it's not really a fantasy when he's on Earth. When he's on Earth, it's all sort of a supposed reality. Trailer parks don't really look like that. They're a little rougher than that. But it's like, it's basically, what would a real human being do? And I thought it was incredibly funny that he reacts, not necessarily like, oh great, I get to be this, I get to fly a spaceship. It's more like, this will scare the crap out of me. It's like, I don't really know if I can do this, And to me, that was sort of inherently funny. So that's kind of how I read it, and it just kind of reminded me of like this new, what became like a hybrid comedy, science fiction, fantasy kind of film that was to be made in the 80s. There was a lot that you didn't see a lot of comedy in science fiction prior to that, and this sort of was a new kind of a subgenre.
As far as I remember, because it was a long time ago, I started out as just a regular audition. I was auditioning all the time. I was sort of like a young ingenue in Hollywood. I was doing Days of Our Lives at the time. And I got this audition, read for it, and was called back. And I was partnered with Lance, which is sort of unusual actually, to end up with the person that you have a call back with or whatever.
So it wasn't a chemistry read, just you were.
No, it wasn't a chemistry. Did they have chemistry readings back then? I don't know that they.
That was, I think you were talking about the callback.
The callback, yeah. I don't remember that terminology back then. Let's see if they had chemistry, kind of a thing. I mean, I'm sure that
We invented it.
We invented chemistry. But no, we got along really well. I seem to remember having some sort of improv kind of a situation where we were supposed to be at the lake, and what would you do at the lake? It wasn't like something out of the script. We were just supposed to improvise, and it was fun. And next thing I know, I was cast with Lance, which turned out great, I feel like.
This was at the forefront of what the modern era of CGI.
Yes, this is really a decision that was made a bit before I even came on. The producer, the person that I mentioned before, Gary Adelson, who's the son of the owner of the company, was looking to do two things with visual effects. One, find something cheap that he could present to the company to actually do the movie, because the actual budget of the picture was about $13 million, which wasn't a lot of money to do a visual effects type movie. And and secondly, he was really very imaginative in terms of going, this is going to be the wave of the future if they can do this. And the big if was true. I mean, they had done some modeling, and they've done a couple of very low resolution flights of things. This company, Digital Production, that he was eventually hired to do the movie. But there was no assurance that they could put together the kind of detail and the kind of time it would take to put in terms of research and development. You're doing a movie, think about this, you're doing a movie and you don't know, even when you're shooting the movie, if the visual effects are going to be any good. You just knew the drawings that Ron Cobb did and some artists, you knew they were beautiful, but you didn't know if they were going to be able to make that work, you know, and it wasn't until the very end. Some of it didn't work, if you know the movie pretty well. There's the landscapes, for instance, when they're flying through tunnels and going through mountains and stuff. It's very raw in terms of the detail that you needed to really make that seem real. But it was all really Gary Adelson and Lorimar that decided, oh, let's give this a shot, you know. And of course, once they did, I thought it was very exciting to be a part of that. I knew right at that point that this was going to be, in that sense, at least historical, you know, as far as it goes. Physically having a model go through space and the camera tracking it frame by frame or whatever, and there's a lot of limitations there. Here you didn't have any limitations, so we would do all kinds of spins and gyrations and moves that would be near impossible with the model. So we were very conscious of that, but within the keeping, without going crazy, in keeping of the people's feel for what a real action movie would be.
Obviously, you teed that up perfectly for Lance, because of course, seeing the exterior is one thing, but you're the one on the set who they're pivoting around, turning upside down. What was it like, and not seeing any of this, because you have to imagine it, you're seeing Ron Cobb's designs. What was that like for you?
Well, if you look at that picture up there, you'll notice the expression on my face looks not quite as sanguine and friendly as I might be, because it was right after we did that. And yeah, my hair got all sweaty and my hair got all curly and stuff, and I was like, I was gonna throw up after the second. We only did it twice, but I was gonna throw up after the second one, and I was just like really pissed off. and it was like, and that's when they decided, okay, this will be the portrait picture. Well, here, go up there. We're gonna take your picture, and I'm like, really, you're gonna take a picture now? So
I went to acting school for this.
No. Whenever I see that picture, I remember exactly how I felt, and I think it's pretty clear in that picture how I felt. So anyways, but it was really fun, because, you know, I'm spinning. I mean, it's like being on a roller coaster. You know, that part of it was really fun. But it was, you know,
It was the worst experience of your
take a bit of toll, but it was just funny. I mean,
Thing about the status of, there's not one writer in Hollywood who at one point has said, you know what, my chiropractor said that to me once.
know a movie they should really remake? That Last Starfighter. It's so great. They remake all the bad ones, but this would be great. So, can you tell us anything about the future of this movie?
Well, yeah, first of all, yeah, you're right. There's always been some interest in Starfighter. And of course, when it was released, actually released in '84, it didn't do the kind of business that would immediately throw it into that world of, oh, we gotta have a sequel because we have to make more money. But it wasn't until later on in the next decade that it became kind of a cult classic. People would discover it on video or on TV and recommend it to a friend. So it was really word of mouth that got it interested. And then the concept of it, and the theme of it, I think, were always clever, really clever. And so over the years, people have asked, to start it up. And really early in the 2000s, we were all together, almost one foot out the door, about to do a movie, a sequel, 30-year sequel. Now it's what, a 45-year sequel?
I'm here 40.
40.
And
Don't age us.
to make a long story short, that fell apart because of rights issues, and that's some of the headaches you get with sometimes with projects. The rights have been reverted to the writer now, Jonathan Betchell, very good close friend of mine, and the two of us right now are writing it. A studio is real interested in it, and it would be a sequel. And so these two would be the parents of another generation.
Named Skippy.
And that's that's all I can tell you at this point.
That's more than we've heard in a long time. That's great.
They better hurry or else we'll have to be the grandparents.
You'll be a late parenting, you know how they do that.
A lot of adventures and then settle down.
Sort of pretended like it, to me, and my experience, pretended like it didn't happen, like they didn't recognize it. But I would go to small towns, like I have these friends that live up in Oregon, and I went to a football game, and it's a football stadium at a high school. And I walked in there, and everybody on one side of the stadium turned around and looked at me. And it was the weirdest expression, it was the weirdest feeling, like, everybody in this town knows this movie now, and it's like, I'm like a big deal, and sitting around this. It was a very weird experience because, like I said, Hollywood it was just like, oh yeah, you did that movie, didn't make any money. What are you doing next, And
I feel like it really found its footing in the VHS market. A lot of people that I talk to at these conventions, and they talk about how they watched VHS over and over and over again, sometimes after school if their parents were working or something like that, but it feels like that's where it really found its market, really touched a nerve for people. I think one of the beautiful things about it is it's relatable because it's about a young kid who's just trying to make a life for himself, and we all go through that struggle, especially at that time, going from high school into college. It's such a pivotal time in your life. And so it's very, very relatable, and then it has that extraordinary situation that happens to this ordinary kid. So it gives, it motivates kids, and for that generation that watched it on VHS, it just stuck with them in such a profound way. It's really quite incredible being here 40 years later, and the passion that the audience has for it is amazing.
Count Chocula and Frank and Mary over there.
That's right.
I think that's just a wonderful story.
Oh, it's incredible.
Absolutely love that story.
Wasn't it that your wife had a poster or something like that online, one of the photos or something of the Last Starfighter? Is that how it worked? Yeah. And he was like, I'm gonna meet her, soulmate. And they literally said to us, you brought us together. They've been married 6 years. How much? 10 years, excuse me, and they have a kid, and you're welcome.
But, and many people were, very inspired by, the writing, the Centauri saying, if that's what you believe, that's all you'll ever be, and just this whole sort of, I don't know, it
really touched people personally, and truthfully, like the whole reason I got into this is that movies touched me. Like the best movies that I've seen had a effect on me. It wasn't just like, oh, that's fun, oh, it's cool, oh, you know. Something that the movie said really, you know, resonated with me. So I always wanted to be part of something that did that, and it's just really wonderful that people have experienced such a positive thing about it.